The night started like any other. I was in San Diego, staying in this old house with a certain character. You know the kind. Floorboards that sigh, doors that close on their own. I was just going through my nightly routine, standing in front of the bathroom mirror. The light was buzzing overhead, casting long, strange shadows. I brushed my teeth, rinsed and stared at my face for a moment. Just me, tired eyes. A day's worth of life etched onto my features. Nothing out of the ordinary. I flicked off the light, plunging the small bathroom into darkness, and stepped out into the hallway. The house was quiet, almost unnaturally so. I took a few steps towards my bedroom, the old wood creaking under my feet, and then I heard it. A soft, wet sound, like someone breathing, but not quite. It was shallow, and it seemed to be coming from right behind me. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every horror movie cliché flashed through my mind. I told myself it was just the house settling, my imagination running wild in the dark, but I couldn't shake the feeling, the primal, gut-wrenching sense of being watched. Slowly, I turned my head back towards the bathroom. The doorway was a black rectangle against the faint moonlight filtering through a nearby window, but inside that rectangle, something was wrong. There was a shape, a silhouette standing where I had just been. It was my shape, my silhouette. I could make out the faint glint of its eyes in the darkness. My reflection. It hadn't disappeared when I turned off the light. It hadn't vanished when I walked away. It was still there, in the mirror, watching me from the pitch-black room. A cold dread, unlike anything I've ever felt, washed over me. I was frozen, my feet glued to the floor. I couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. We just stood there, staring at each other across the dark hallway, me and the thing wearing my face. And then, it did something that shattered my reality. It smiled, a slow, wide, unnatural grin that stretched its my features into a grotesque mask. It wasn't my smile. It was predatory, victorious. It leaned closer to the mirror's surface, its dark eyes never leaving mine, and it mouthed two sentences. The words forming silently but with horrifying clarity in the darkness. "I'll come out. When you sleep." I finally broke free from my paralysis. I didn't even think. I just ran. I sprinted into my bedroom, slammed the door shut, and fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so violently I could barely fit the key. I shoved a heavy dresser in front of the door, my breath coming in ragged, terrified gasps. I spent the rest of the night huddled in the corner of my room, with every light I could find turned on, staring at the barricaded door, waiting for the sound of the lock turning, waiting for the dresser to scrape across the floor. Sleep was impossible. How could I sleep knowing what was waiting on the other side of that mirror, knowing it wanted to come out? Every time my eyelids started to droop, its horrifying smile would flash in my mind, and I'd be wide awake again, heart pounding. The sun finally started to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was the most beautiful sunrise I had ever seen. It meant I had survived the night. With the morning light streaming in, a sliver of courage returned. I had to know, was it still there? I slowly, cautiously, moved the dresser away from the door. My hand hesitated over the doorknob. What if it was waiting right outside? I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and peered into the hallway. Nothing. The house was silent, peaceful even, in the morning glow. I tiptoed towards the bathroom, my heart in my throat. I reached the doorway and peeked inside. The bathroom was empty. The mirror reflected the hallway behind me, just as it should. There was no one there, no twisted smile, no dark figure. It was just a normal mirror in a normal bathroom. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I had dreamt it all. A nightmare brought on by a strange house and an overactive imagination. I let out a shaky breath of relief. But then, I saw it. On the cool tile floor, just in front of the mirror, were two wet footprints. They were bare, perfectly formed, and exactly my size. They were leading out of the mirror and into the house. It hadn't been a dream. It hadn't been a nightmare. It had gotten out. I didn't pack. I didn't grab my wallet or my keys. I ran out of that house and didn't look back. I've been running ever since I moved out of San Diego, changed my name, tried to start a new life. But you can't run from yourself, or from the thing that looks like you. I started seeing it everywhere. A fleeting glimpse in a shop window as I walked by. A flash of a face in a passing subway car. A figure standing across the street, just watching me, with that same terrifying smile. It's always there, on the periphery of my vision. It's patient. It knows it has all the time in the world. The worst part is the nights. I haven't had a real night's sleep in years. I'm terrified to close my eyes. I surround myself with mirrors now, dozens of them, in whatever cheap motel room I can find. I need to be able to see every angle of the room. I need to see it coming, but it's smart. It knows I'm watching. Sometimes late at night, when the exhaustion becomes too much to bear and I start to drift off, I feel it, a cold spot in the room, the scent of ozone, like after a lightning strike, and a whisper, right beside my ear, in a voice that is mine but not mine. Almost time to sleep. I don't know what it wants, to replace me, to live my life, or something worse. All I know is that my reflection escaped that mirror in San Diego, and it's been hunting me ever since. And sooner or later, I'm going to have to sleep. I wonder, have you ever looked a little too long into a mirror in a dark room? Have you ever thought your reflection moved, just for a second, after you looked away? Be careful, you never know who's looking back. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had a strange experience with a mirror, let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories that will keep you up at night, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Stay safe out there.